Greetings, everyone. I'm Mar, and once again, this is my opinion. I've said it before, and if you're tired of hearing it at this point, you might want to skip this next sentence, but this is an episode that could have been at the basic level in any of the first couple seasons, and even in the last one, even though it wouldn't have worked as well there. It's just the specifics of the plot that you'd have to adjust. But it's one that I feel is better for season 1, or if you stretched it, season 2. And this, of course, is Debra's sick. And it raises a question of, with how we've seen Ray and Debra act as a team in their little marriage, where Ray is the archetypical father, just goes to work, comes home, might do a couple things, and then just conks out, and Debra does all the housework and basically raises the kids alone, for the most part. It makes you wonder, what would happen if you temporarily took Debra out of commission, with her being sick to the point where it would be agonizing to get up and do her usual stuff. And it's not a day Ray's going into the office, so he has to stay home and help. And of course, we get this. Debra's sick. Plot opens up. Ray wakes up. He's fine. Debra's sick. He has to go wake up the kids. They take the temperatures. Debra has over 100-degree fever. She is sick. He calls his mother to come over, which this is one of the few times where, as the episode goes along, Debra's going to be happy that Ray called his mother to come over and help when she wanted him to be the one to do most of the helping with her that day. But it makes sense, from what we've seen a couple episodes before this. Marie, she really gets into mother mode when her family needs her. And while she might have her moments where she's at odds with Debra, Debra is still family. She's her daughter-in-law. If she's sick like this, she's going to go in there. I mean, she might have just no moments, but she's not a full-on just no mother-in-law. And full-on just no mother-in-law would be like, oh, you're sick, eh? Debra's not the only one that's sick. Allie's sick and one of the twins are sick, which means Ray has to take them to the doctors, which the only thing about this part of the plot when it's introduced that has me going, no, is that they really make Ray seem stupid. And what I mean is, we've seen already that he does not really do a lot around the house other than some minor stuff. But the way that they make it seem like he doesn't even know where things are, maybe it's just me as an adult looking at this, but it seems insulting. It's funny, because it is, played for comedy. I mean, this is a sitcom. But it's like, really? We're made to believe that he doesn't know the name of the doctor off the top of his head, and doesn't know where Debra keeps the little book that has all the numbers in it. Does not know to call it in and all that. Really? We're made to believe that he's that incompetent? Those things like, it's funny, but it's like... But that's a sitcom trope for you. It's in that gray area, has a good, has a bad. Now, in doing this, Ray has to blow off his meeting with Terry Bradshaw. That's who he was going to have a meeting with. Which leads to a funny moment where he actually meets Terry in the doctor's office, which this is, in my opinion, the best of the sports cameos they have during this season. Because one, it's actually in the heart of the episode, so you can't cut it out in syndication. Ha ha ha. And two, it actually is an important part of the plot. I mean, this is the B plot, because the main plot is everyone's sick. But it is the B plot, Ray trying to do an interview to ghostwrite Terry Bradshaw's book. Now, they only mention that line once in the episode, but it's one of those things that, like, it's a famous athlete. Are you really surprised that he's going to get his book ghostwritten? And, of course, the fact it's going to be a ghostwriter means that the ghostwriter is going to be paid well, which is why Ray wants the gig. Two, they're going to have to meet with him to make sure that he can write the book in a way to where even if everybody knows a ghostwriter is writing it, not the actual person, that it meshes with, like, alright, I could see this being Terry. This seems like how, without I've seen him talk in interviews, this is how he could go. And he's only on screen a little bit. Terry does kind of come off as a jerk, but considering he had to meet Ray last minute in a pediatrician's office, it's a little justified, but at the same time, it's like, It makes me wonder how much Terry did get paid for this little cameo. It makes me wonder how much these sports personnel are getting paid for these cameos in general. But I'm guessing since Terry actually had a bigger part of the plot, he probably got a little bit more money. Now, when it comes to Ray taking the kids to the office, this does lead to a gag that I'm actually surprised they didn't utilize even more. Of course, it would get harder as the twins get older unless they do it intentionally. And that is Ray takes the wrong twin into the doctor's office. Even all these years later, this still makes me belly laugh. Because after the doctor's checked Allie, seeing how she is, he goes to check the twin, and he's like, actually, Michael's fine here. Well, what do you mean he's fine? Earlier he was fever and everything. And as he's saying this, in comes Robert holding the other twin, goes, gives the doctor one twin, takes the other one, walks out without saying a word. It's like, really, Ray? This goes hand in hand with that book thing. It's like, really? I mean, this actually is a little funnier, because grabbing the wrong twin by mistake, even though it'd be smart to be like, oh, right, they're identical twins. All right, I got the right one. If you're in a rush, and as we see what Ray does, trying to finagle it to where Terry Bradshaw meets you there, you can understand why in his rush he grabbed the wrong twin. And it does make for a funny situation, especially since that family heckles him when he gets home. And of course it leads to a little funny thing that Frank actually confused Ray and Robert once, which that's like, really? How do you confuse Ray with Robert? I mean, we only see one flashback to when they actually are kids, but, and that's in season 2, by the way. And even then, there is quite a noticeable size difference. I mean, it's be like me getting confused with one of my brothers, either Joseph or Kyle. Not accounting for the fact I have darker hair. The height difference and the slight skin tone difference would be the kicker. And even though old Ray is, about the same olive complexion I have, maybe he's a bit darker. The kid that plays him in that one is lighter skinned. And if you compare how he looks to Robert in the flashback, like, there's no way you can confuse those two. I mean, even if it's when they were younger, and Robert hadn't had his growth spurt just yet, it's one of those things like, how do you confuse the two? I'd love to know the story, but it's never elaborated on again. It's one of those jokes for background lore that they mentioned once, and it's never brought up again. Speaking of which, one thing that's not brought up again after he gets arrested in a later episode off screen is Frank's buddy Leon, and this is the first episode he's mentioned, and he's just a background friend of Frank's that we never see, unlike Stan, Garvin, Albert, among others that are at the lodge. We never see Leon. He's Frank's buddy that sells a lot of different things, from rings to coats to snow tires to golf clubs. He sells it all. And the reason he's brought up here is because the coats that Marie got for the kids, she bought from Leon. And she's upset because she can't fathom why the kids are sick if they're wearing the coats. Which, of course, just shows that she's buying into the whole thing of, oh, if you stay warm when it's cold out, you won't get sick. No, Marie, that's not how it works. That's not how science works. That's not how any of this works. It's viruses and bacteria. Granted, if you have one in your system, the cold's not going to help, but it's not the cold in general. I mean, just look at some parts of the world where it's extremely cold. The viruses and bacteria won't survive. I think it's like parts of Siberia, if I remember right. Of course, if you go out there without a coat, it's not going to be the viruses and bacteria that kill you. It's going to be the extreme cold that will kill you thanks to hypothermia. But just the way that Marie's hammering on us, like, we get it, Marie. Then again, this is the 90s. I think that thing about the cold was a lot more prevalent back then. And even if this was set in modern time, Marie strikes me as someone that would still have that belief. It still is kind of funny, because it does go with her overreactions. I mean, it's not Fruit of the Month Club level. That's a 10 going to 11. This is like a 5. And of course, when Frank comes in, they get into a little back and forth about Leon. It's not the funniest one. When Leon gets arrested, that's a bit funnier. At the end of the episode, Terry Bradshaw does call Ray back and say, I'll give you another opportunity. Let's go have a meeting. But they never mention whether he actually gets the opportunity. But based on how it's kind of glossed over after this episode, I'd say he didn't get it. I mean, because a later episode in season 6, I believe, Ray even mentions that he's always wanted to write a book, and this would be his opportunity. So, there, I'd say he didn't get the job. Might have gotten paid to do like a half a draft or something, but we never find out, other than the fact that he actually got a proper meeting with Terry. Which, of course, the epilogue kind of does that little fake out to make you think that they met and decided to have another meeting in the living room of Ray's house. But nope, it's Ray doing that type of sit-down interview with Allie. And I love the cutaway where at the end it fakes you out. It's like, where is your most favorite place you played? Then it cuts to Allie, in my room. And then, of course, the typical married gag after that. Have you ever seen Mommy Kiss the Mailman? Allie, like, chuckle-worthy. Oh no, this is a pretty decent episode of the series. Has some good moments in there, some funny laughs. Probably the one time they actually do a wrong twin joke in the series. If there's another one, it's probably from an episode I don't watch that much, or it's a very subtle one. It definitely would not be my favorites of the season's list, but it is one that I always find myself watching whenever I marathon the show. Of course, the next episode is going to have another introduction, which is kind of interesting. You get an introduction of another character that becomes a mainstay throughout the series, following the best sports cameo. And of course, her introduction does lead to Ray doing something slightly foolish, but with his heart in the right place. And by foolish, I mean self-centered.